As usual, we are gathered here today to listen to another dispensation of the Lord Buddha's teaching. Before we commence, let us all remind ourselves that He is the Master. It is His Dhamma that we have the privilege of reflecting on, comprehending, and using as a means to cross the ocean of samsara. This is the omniscient one, the unvanquished one, the undefeatable one, the undefeated one, the supremely enlightened one. And therefore, before we commence, let us take a moment to pay homage to the supremely enlightened Lord Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. What is your most precious commodity? What is it that is of value to you, which exceeds all other things? Toys? Is it your beauty? Money? Let me help you here. Tough question, right? So I'm going to help you, don't worry. I'm going to suggest that you take a moment to reflect on what it is that you spend the most amount of time in your lives trying to protect and preserve. Hopefully that will lead you to the right answer. It ought to, right? The thing that you spend the most amount of time trying to protect and preserve must be the most precious thing in your life. So what is the thing that you spend most amount of time in your life you try to protect and preserve? Life? Body? What else? What is it for you, Buddha? Life? Okay. Doesn't money rank anywhere in that list? Do you not spend any amount of time protecting, preserving your money? No? All right. So if I asked you to list the top 10 things in your life, the most important top 10 things, you're going to have, life there. You're going to have your health there, possibly, at least for most of you. Then you're going to have, what else? Money. Your children, yeah? Wealth. Education. What else? Your spouses. Power, yes. Are you powerful, Buddha? You just don't know it yet. Your jobs, your employment. These are some of the things that a lot of people spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, spend a lot of energy trying to protect and preserve. Have you ever taken the time to go through that list? Just to ask yourself, are you protecting and preserving the right things? Or was this list just handed down to you from your parents or your teachers at school? They said, hey Buddha, come here. I've got a list for you. Take a look at this. You look at it. It says, the top most important things in my life. This is the teacher's list. This is your parents' list. And they said, you should have a similar list, Buddha. Oh, should I? You should. Where do I start? Well, you can take a copy of this. That's a good place to start. Where did you get this from, Mummy? Oh, funny you ask. I remember one fine day, my mother called me and she gave me a copy of it, of what was top in her life. So here's a list for you. Just take a copy, start using it. Off you go. We have become a bunch of do as I sayers. We do as somebody else says. Do as I say. We have all, more or less, we do a lot of things because someone else says, do it like this. Right? Because someone else says, this is what's important to you, we just start doing it. And we continue doing it. Oftentimes we don't take a moment to stop, look back, check, am I doing the right thing? Someone says, go down that route, go down that path, and you just start walking. Without taking a moment to check what's at the end of this road. Am I walking down the right road? What about others who have walked down this road many times before? What happened to them? What was their fate? What was their destiny? What happened to them? We don't always take the time to think this. The reason that we don't take a lot of time to think about this is because we just don't have the time. Simple as. Because lots of paths have been paved for us. They are prefabricated. The moment you came into this world, there were lots of paths that were paved out for you. All you had to do was walk. It was not down to each and every one of us to question, is this the right road to walk down? Was it? Think about where you are right now, in terms of where you are in your life. My parents visited me this week. And it's always a really interesting conversation when I speak to them. Because I walked down a path that was not paved out for me. Certainly not one my parents paved out for me. I walked an entirely different path. But up until a point in my life, I walked down the path that society had paved out for me. My parents had, my teachers had, my friends had, my relations had. I just kept walking. Not stopping to take a moment to look back, am I walking down the right path? Is this taking me to where I want to get to in my life? Whatever is at the end of this path, is that what I really want out of my life? The thing is, that's okay. If you're okay with whatever outcome there is that you get at the end of life. If you're okay with whatever outcome there is at the end of life, then that's okay. But if you're particular about the outcome that you get at the end of this life, if you're fussed, if you can be fussed about what happens at the end of this lifetime, then you have to think twice. Remember, we have to bear the consequences of our actions, not somebody else's. It doesn't matter if we do the things that somebody else asks us to do, or instructs us to do, provides us advice to do. It's the person who does that has to suffer the consequences or bear the rewards. Not the person who said to do it. Not the person who asked or instructed to do it. It's we who do the things that we do that have to bear the consequences or reap the rewards of what we have done. Isn't that right? So, did you take a moment to ask yourselves, am I going down the right path? When your parents said, walk down this path, when your teachers said so, when your spouses, when your relations said so, did you take a moment to check, am I walking down the right path, or am I just walking down it because I trust in somebody else to show me the right path? Attadipa viharata. The Buddha says, make yourself an island, because only you are there to give you shelter. It's only your hand that can provide you shelter. Nobody else. And the reason for that is, what determines our fate is the actions that we take, not the actions of somebody else, not what somebody else tells us to do or what somebody else tells us not to do. If we do it, then we have to bear the consequences. If we don't do it, yet again, we have to bear the consequences. So it's really, really, really important we take the time to question ourselves, am I doing the right things? Am I going down the right path? So I was having this conversation earlier on today with my parents, and I went through the principle, fundamental of Buddhist teaching. So I had a whiteboard here, sat down like I did with you some weeks ago, and drawing out all those points that I wanted to emphasize. And so this was the first time my parents had the opportunity to actually go through this process of, what vexation is, what pleasure is, and how pleasure is the relief from vexation. So apparently they'd been listening to sermons, but they'd not really understood any of it at all. So today was the first opportunity for them to actually go through that in detail. And I was questioning them, have you understood it? And I was cross-questioning them just to make sure that they had. So at the end of this lesson or session, I'm trying to convince them that pleasure is nothing other than the relief from vexation. But my mother is not convinced. She's a tough one. My mother could never easily be convinced. So she says, are you sure? Surely there must be times where we experience pleasure but with no vexation beforehand. Surely there must be times. I said, yes, there must be. I just haven't come across one yet. And so today I gave them a challenge. So we came to an agreement. It may be that we may not see each other for very long. I'm talking to you now. Because here's the challenge that I came to an agreement with my parents. I challenged them to go and discuss with friends, relations, Amma and Appa to discuss, and come back and tell me one instance in their life where they have experienced pleasure without relief from vexation. So that is the challenge to them. And on my part, if they come back with just one instance, I said, I'm prepared to disrobe. And I'll come back to lay life. You should have seen the smile on my mother's face. I said, yes, I promise you. Give me just one instance where you have experienced pleasure without there being any vexation beforehand, and where that pleasure was not the result of relief from that vexation, and I shall disrobe. Because you have just proved that the Buddha's Dhamma is untrue. You have just found a flaw in the Buddha's teaching. Hurrah! Eureka! And if you do so, then what is the point in my being here? What is the point in me being in a robe if the Buddha's teaching is flawed? Right? If the Buddha's teaching is flawed and I have committed my life to practicing his teaching, I'm not prepared to do that. So I have sent them away with a challenge. So if you ever meet them, come across them, please help them. They're desperately trying to find an instance where they have experienced pleasure without there being vexation beforehand. So if you come across them, then please help them. Be so kind to them. I'm sure there must have been instances in your life as well where you have experienced pleasure without there being vexation beforehand. So show them, share that experience with them. And I await my mother's return. So she went away pretty excited. There was a hop in her step that she didn't have on her way here. How convinced are you? Can your conviction be shaken? Is what you have a belief, or is what you have faith? Or is what you have conviction? There's blind faith, and then there's conviction. Faith doesn't take you very far. Sometimes the things that we do with faith really lead us down a rabbit hole. Like, for example, is it not through faith that we got into relationships with friends? You trusted them, right? You trusted them to do the right thing for you. The right thing for you. But they didn't always do the right thing for you. Half the time they did what was right for them, which wasn't the right outcome for you. And therefore, that relationship that you got into through faith really didn't get you very far. Those relationships came to an end very soon. So that was a relationship that was based on faith, blind faith. Because you asked somebody else. Think about when you got married. How did you decide your partner for life? You asked people, is he a good person? Is she a kind person? Do you think he or she is going to make a fine partner for me? Because the only way you're going to know with conviction is after the fact. But then it's too late. You have already taken that step. This is why some relationships don't work out. In fact, most relationships don't work out. Most of the time, people make their minds up. People make their mind up to be okay with something. Again, I asked my mother, what are you hoping to get out of this session? So usually when I speak to somebody, I ask them, what are you hoping to get out of this session? Because otherwise, I'm just sat down, talking like a puppet, giving them something that they don't really want. So I said, what are you trying to find out by being here today? So they said, I want to find a way to help make my mind up when things don't work out in my favor. So I get angry. I feel sad. And then my mind breaks. I want to make my mind up. To make something up, something has to break beforehand, right? If you're making something up, then it's broken to begin with. You can't fix something that hasn't been broken. So she wanted to find better ways than the ways that she has become accustomed to make her mind up when things don't go right. Put me back together when I'm broken in pieces. I said, this is not what I would like to share with you, because that is what you taught me how to do when I was with you. You taught me how to make my mind up when my mind was broken. When I was heartbroken, how do I make myself back together again? How do I put myself back together again? That is what you taught me, but I was fed up of it. I got fed up of that. I was sick and tired of that. I'm not happy with having to build it back up after it's broken. That's not what I want. I want something where it doesn't break to begin with. I want my mind to be in a state where my mind cannot be broken. Therefore, I don't have to worry about trying to fix it. Would you not like a car that never breaks down? Given the choice, would you prefer a car that breaks down and then you get the chance to take it to the garage and get it fixed? Or would you rather a car that doesn't break down at all? Well, you know the answer. So I'm looking for a way to fix my mind, or to put my mind in a state where it doesn't have to be fixed because it doesn't break. I gave them the choice. Which would you prefer? And so she was saying, I can't believe that there is such a way. There just can't be. Psychology, right? Science, all these things teach us how to make our mind up when our heart breaks. There just can't be a way where your heart cannot be broken, where your mind cannot be depressed. Is there? I said, yes. Would you like to know? Would you like to find out? So first I made them curious. Because it's no point me sitting down and just going through the theory of it if they don't have a need for it. If you remember, this is how we started when you first came along to these sermons. When you were only taking baby steps on your journey in the Dhamma. I used to talk to you about my life. Remember? Back then? Many months ago? I used to talk about how I started off in life. How I went through the education system. How I got myself into employment. I used to paint that picture in front of you, the picture that you were painting in your life. Made you curious. Made you want to know, what? Why would anyone give up all that? So then you became curious. Now you wanted to find out. Why? This is why the fact that the Buddha or Siddhartha was a Shakyan made a huge difference. This is why the fact that he was a prince, he was Prince Siddhartha before he became an ascetic, makes a huge difference. If he had been a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, he would not have been so successful, because people would not have been prepared to accept what he was about to say. But now he's a man of all means. He has everything that anyone could ever want. And now when he speaks, people are prepared to listen. It's a pity that we have to do that. Because this is the nature of our mind, always comparing ourselves to others. We always want to put a step forward. We are never prepared to take a step back. We are never prepared to think of comparing ourselves to those who we consider to be beneath us. We don't like to do that. When you think about your lives, do you not always think about how successful you are? You compare yourself to other people. The problem with this is, though, if you shape your life according to what other people brand you, it's quite risky, because then they can send you down a rabbit hole. I'll give you a few examples. People who live on your street. If someone who's new to the area might come along and asks, they're looking for you, they're looking for your house so they could come and meet you. People who live on your street know you in a certain way. For example, they might know you as the guy who has the BMW 7 Series. So someone says, do you know Mr. So-and-so? Who are you talking about? You know that guy, gentleman who has two sons? Are you talking about the guy with the BMW? Yeah, that one. Oh, yes. 3 houses onto your right. Now you are known as the guy who has the BMW. I'm about to show you the danger of that. It's okay that that's how they know you. But the risk is, you come to accept that that is how you are known among your friends, among society, and among other people. Now when you are the one who owns the BMW and that's how you are known in society, this is where you're going to spend a lot of time. You're going to spend a lot of time emphasizing this fact. You're going to spend a lot of time promoting this fact. Making sure that you are the only one on your street who is known as the BMW guy. This is quite dangerous. Because you want to be known. You just want to be known somehow. People know you as the guy who owns the BMW. What if you are the lady who lives on the street, who has long, beautiful, pitch black hair? Now you're going to spend a lot of time on your hair. Because this is how you are known to society now. This is your brand. Think about the brands that you know. BMW, Mercedes, Audis, right? Coca-Cola. These brands are known for something, right? Adidas, it's known for something. Rolex. These brands, they have made a name for themselves by creating this feeling of what they are about in our minds. So when someone says BMW, how do you feel? Even the word has feeling. You feel reliability. You feel long-lasting. You feel sporty. You feel expensive. You feel classy, don't you? Do you feel poor when I say BMW? When I say Rolex, how do you feel? Poor? No, you feel rich. Because this is how these brands have been created over time. So when I say Rolex, now you have a feeling behind that word. Classy, eloquent, rich, wealthy, successful, right? These are all those words that are associated with that brand. Now if you become the guy, you become the lady with long black hair, that becomes your brand. Because we're all about trying to create a brand. People want to make a brand out of themselves because now you are known by that brand. What if you're known as the guy who wears glasses? If you're known as the guy who wears glasses, you're going to spend a lot of time on your glasses, on making sure that you have a branded pair of glasses, that they're gold, that they're top notch. You're going to spend time doing that. If you're known as the guy who has a 3-story house, you're going to make sure that you're always going to have a 3-story house. Or the big house, the biggest house on the street. If you're known as the guy who has the biggest house on the street, now you're going to invest time and money and energy on making sure that you are the person that has the biggest house on that street. Not just now, but also in the future. Because this is now your brand. You become a victim of this. What if you are known as the monk or the fair monk who preaches in English? Is that not a brand? It's a brand. Because if there's only one of them, then that person is going to maintain their brand if you fall trap. Because then you have to do abhisankara to make sure that you continue to be that person that society comes to know you about. How society comes to know you. How society addresses you. Then we become the victim of our own brands. Then the purpose of our life changes from what it ought to be to protecting and preserving the brand that has been created for us. Again, we have been put into a cage. Right? You've been put into a cage. If you're known as the lady who has dark, pitch black hair, when are you going to be able to cut it? You want to change your hairstyle. You want to go for a bob cut. When are you going to be able to do that? No, because then your brand is destroyed. Because this is how people know you. This is how people accept you. So now you're in a box. You have been caged. So to continue to be known to society, to continue to be known to people, you have to make sure that you continue to have long pitch black hair. You have become the victim of your own brand. You have to be very careful. Because people will push you down these boxes, these cages. They'll push you into these cages. And the reason for that, this is a world of consumers and suppliers. So people are going to find a way to talk about you in a way that promotes what it is that they find most interesting about you. This is how people are going to know you. They're going to find a way to talk about you that in the way that they find most interesting about you. Because this is what you're supplying them. This is what they're consuming. If you're the doctor that lives on the street, then you're probably going to be known as the doctor that lives down the street. If you're the engineer, then this is probably how you're going to be known. If you're the lawyer, this is probably how you're going to be known. Consumers and suppliers. Because ultimately, all society wants is whatever they can get from you. So whatever they can get from you, whatever they need to do to get what they want from you, they'll do. If they have to pet you on your head to get what they want, they'll do that. If they have to speak nicely to you, they'll do that. Can you not remember the times in your life where you've gone into an office or gone to speak to somebody? You've never met that person ever in your life, or sometimes you even hate that person. But because you want to get something out of them, they've not known a nicer person than you. They've never met in their lives a nicer person than you. Where in that situation, you paint a beautiful picture in front of them. You show that you're really nice, you're really friendly, right? You're a great acquaintance to have. Because you're scratching their back, they're scratching yours. This is a give and take world. A dog-eat-dog world. So, what I really wanted to emphasize was, make sure you don't fall a victim to the brands that people have created for you. Because what would happen then is, once a brand has been created for you, you are now caged. Then you will continue to promote that brand, you will continue to emphasize that brand, and you will continue to augment that brand. You will continue to demonstrate that you are who people say you are. When someone's called Kudda, this is their brand. Right? So if this is how they are known to society, they're going to continue to make sure that this is how people know them. And it's dangerous if you call someone Kudda. There's a reason why you call them that. So you're digging their grave. To continue to be known by that brand, they're going to be doing that. They're going to continue to be doing drugs. If someone's called Kukula, they're going to continue. Because again, good or bad, this is their brand now. And they're going to do whatever it takes to promote themselves in that brand. You know, like in school, right? We used to have Chandiyas, right? School Chandiya, the thug at school. He used to hit everybody and he used to be basically the thug at school. So when you call him Chandiya, he's a Chandiya at school. Now he's going to do whatever it takes to maintain that brand. And if the reason he's called Chandiya is because he's a very harmful character, because he hits people as he sees them and walk by, is because he goes and he's aggravating. Now he's going to continue doing that. To maintain that status, he has to be the Chandiya at school. Again, he's been given a brand. Now he's caged. Now he has to continue to be the person that society accepts him as. Very dangerous. So what I would suggest is, for you, in terms of your practical life and how this relates to you, make sure that you think twice about how people know you. And are you ready to accept that? Because people can call you whatever, that's okay. I'm not saying go and ask them, hey, stop calling me that name, I don't like it. I don't like you calling me Suddha. Stop calling me that. That's not what I'm saying. Let them call you whatever they like. But you ask yourself, have you fallen victim to that? Are you trying to emphasize that you are what they say you are, just to preserve your brand? And that can be pretty dangerous, because then the purpose of your life takes another route, takes another path, not the purpose that it ought to be. Sometimes, as people who are in the path of Dhamma, you can be known as the person who knows a lot of Dhamma. Oh, he's that Upasakya. He knows a lot of Dhamma. Again, you've been caged. Because now, to continue to be the person who knows a lot of Dhamma, you're going to have to study a lot of Dhamma. Again, purpose of your life has shifted from attaining Nibbana to the person who has to learn, memorize, and start preaching the Dhamma. People will cage you quite easily. They'll be so eager to cage you. Because people don't like uncertainty. Like, nobody likes uncertainty. People like certainty. They know they like it when they know you. People don't like it when they don't know you. Do they? Imagine you've just moved into a new neighborhood, or someone new moves into your neighborhood. Do you not feel uneasy until you get to know who they are, what they are, what's their background? What do they do? Are they professionals? Or are they drunkards? Right? You're going to be uneasy until you get to know them. You're going to be so keen to find out about them, so you can now label them. You can box them, you can cage them, you can give them a brand. Well, the rest of society is much the same. So people will be so eager to cage you, brand you, so that they can identify you as somebody. And then when they give you this label of somebody, what might happen is you fall victim to that, and then you continue to emphasize, you continue to augment yourself, and you continue to promote those attributes about you that continue to demonstrate that you are who they say you are. That is pretty dangerous. So watch out. Don't fall victim to society's whims and fancies. And the reason that you have all come so far doing the things that you have been doing all your life is because you fell into each of those boxes. You fell into those cages. Someone said, Buddha, you look like a really intelligent guy. When you were a young age, right? Someone said, I can see something in you. I think one day you're going to be a doctor. Someone said that to you in your face. What did they just do to you? Branded you. They branded you as a future doctor. Now that starts working in your mind. Oh, they called me a future doctor. So all this time, that was not what you wanted to do. But someone just said, I think you're going to make a really good doctor. So now the purpose of your life becomes, how do I become a doctor? Because this is how people know me. The reason for all this is because of ego. Remember, ego is one of the last things to disappear. On your path in the Dhamma, ego is one of the last things to go away. So ego is at the root of all these defilements. It is at the root of this. So ego is what is feeding all your actions, your thoughts, your speech. This is ego feeding all of these things. So when ego is all about, branding is about ego. Who you are is your ego. So when someone says, you look like you're going to be a good doctor one day, now you've been branded. Your ego has just been fed. Now you're going to start doing the things that is required of you to become a doctor, because this is how society knows you now. Someone says, one day, you say you're on stage, you're playing a musical instrument, or you're dancing, or you're singing. Someone says, Buddha, you've got a beautiful voice. Like someone said to me one day, you should start singing. And then immediately you're thinking, that's not a bad idea. Surely one day you're going to be a great singer, world-class singer. What have they just done? Branded you. They have just branded you as a world-class singer. Now, because you want your ego to be fed, you're trying to find a way to identify you. You're looking for identity. Every young child looking for identity. Young child, all kinds of children. We're all looking for identity. How does society know me? How does society accept me? And if it's by being a world-class singer, well, now I have to do the things that makes me a world-class singer. Someone sees you playing cricket at school. Hey Buddha, that was a beautiful shot you played there. I think one day you're going to be a world-class batsman. That bowl that you just bowled there, that was amazing. I think one day you're going to be an international bowler. You have just been branded. It's like someone's put a seal on your face, on your forehead. World-class batsman, world-class singer, world-class bowler, doctor, lawyer, engineer, dancer, whatever. Because from that point forward, you imagine that this is who you are. When you see, what's his name? Who was the martial arts guy who used to act in movies? Is it Jet Li? Bruce Lee, thank you, Bruce Lee. Been a while since I watched a movie. Bruce Lee. Right? A young child watches TV, sees Bruce Lee. Now he sees that Bruce Lee is accepted, he's acknowledged, he's praised, he's valued for his skill. This is a martial artist, look at him fight. And people say, wow, you've got some good kicks, mate. Now you start to think, one day, if only I can become like him, then people are going to value me. You have made a brand for yourself because someone values what Bruce Lee can do. So this is the first time you've seen Bruce Lee on TV. The film comes to an end. Guess who's Bruce Lee at home now? This young child is now Bruce Lee. He feels he's Bruce Lee. So now he starts kicking all over the place. He starts jumping on the sofas. Hua, hoo, hee, ha. He's just become Bruce Lee. Why? Because a brand is now working in his head, in his mind. There's a brand that's now going on. Because this is how he wants him to be known. It doesn't matter what that brand is, for as long as people are prepared to accept that as a brand, for as long as people are prepared to give value to that brand, that's all we want. Something to value us by. So you have to be very careful. Because these are paths that society are going to push you down. And without knowing, you're going to fall into those pits. Whether it's even in the path of Dhamma, right? I have to be very careful. Mustn't I be? I must be. What if I become known as the monk who preaches in English? If that becomes a brand, and I'm prepared to accept that brand, now I'm going to have to maintain that brand. Then I'm going to forget all about why I became a monk in the first place. I didn't become a monk to go preaching all over the world. We've had some invites recently from Canada, Australia, Singapore, and so on and so forth. Please, can you come and deliver sermons? If I forget why I ordained, that's going to be another rabbit hole. It's going to be Alice all over again. If I forget why I became a monk in the first place, if I am prepared to accept the brand that people have created for me, then I will fall victim to that brand, and I will forget the purpose of my life. So this happened, I was thinking about this over the past week because we had some invitations from international invitations. Can you please come and start preaching? And then I was thinking to myself, I have to be very careful here because I'm still struggling with ego. I'm not an arahant. It would be a lie for me to say that there is no ego within me. There is ego. But it's like diabetes, I'm learning to live with it. There's no cure for diabetes, at least not one I know of. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have to learn to live with it. But this ego, it can be cured. But until it is cured, we have to learn to live with it. So you have to be very careful about the times where ego can get the better of you. Because remember, people don't care what ego is going to do to you. People don't care what it's going to do to you. All people will care is what's in it for me. In other words, what's in it for them. Right? That's all people will care. What's in it for us? Don't care what's going to happen to you as a result of that. The times where I've spoke, through other benefactors, they come to us with these messages and say, Swami Hansa, there's an invitation for you. Please explain to them that I'm not prepared to come. And then they ask me why. Because I'm still battling. I'm still at war. I haven't finished my war yet. I haven't finished my battle yet. What are you talking about? I don't have the time to go and do all these things. What if after I go there, I become known as the international traveling monk who speaks in English? Now, what if I fall victim to that brand? They say, oh, no, don't worry, it's not going to happen to you. You are a very modest person. You're very humble. Don't worry, it's not going to happen to you. What guarantee can you give me? What guarantee can you give me that my ego is not going to get the better of me? How can you say that? The day I become an arahant, yes, no question, no doubt. But until then, I have to be very careful. So I'm talking about my life. I want you to think about your lives. Think about the places, think about the times where people brand you. Have you fallen victim to those brands? Even in the path of Dhamma, have you become known as the person who preaches? Have you become known as the lay person who knows a lot of Dhamma? Have you become known as the guy who lives down the street who knows a lot of Dhamma? The go-to person for Dhamma, have you become known as that person? Because if you have, be very careful. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to know Dhamma. What I'm saying is, if you fall victim to that brand, then your purpose in life will take a shift without even you knowing it. Unbeknown to you, your life will take a shift. Then you will continue to develop and spend time, invest time, money, energy in trying to foster that brand rather than achieve your life's purpose. So watch out. This is the advice I'm going to have to give to you. This is the advice I give to myself. So I'm going to share it with you. Watch out. I think it was last week or the week before, I spoke about parents. I know it was a Sinhala sermon. We had some young children came from somewhere, and then a Sinhala sermon. I was talking to them about the value of parents, as I have done to you in the past. Sometimes you can be branded as the guy who looks after your parents. Even that can become a brand. Brands come in all shapes and sizes. Like t-shirts. They come in all shapes and sizes, all colors, and so do brands. Sometimes you can be known as the person that always brings flowers to the temple. Sometimes you can be branded as the person who sits right at the front of the class. Brands. You have to watch out. These are things that feed your ego. Are you treating your parents well because you like to be known in society as the person who looks after your parents? Is that why you look after your parents? Some people do. Because it's an ad. It's a show. I look after my parents because people see me looking after my parents and they're going to praise me for that. Some people are like that. Some people are very, as they walk down the road, if they see bits of paper, some trash thrown all over the place, they'll pick it up, provided someone's looking. If someone's watching, oh yes, they'll be the first to pick it up. No one's watching. What's the point? Some people are like that. Some people will go to the temple and they'll go and worship the Buddha, provided there are people that can see them doing that. Some people will go and give a penny or a rupee to a beggar on the street, provided there are people that can see them doing that. They're trying to create a brand for themselves as the generous guy, the kind person, the nice person. Brands, all brands. Even in school, sometimes children will go and worship their teachers because everyone else in the class is looking, or sometimes because the teacher is looking, because they want to be known as the good child, the good student, the good pupil in school. So they'll worship their teacher, not because they're grateful to the teacher, but because they want to be known to the teacher as the good student. When I was in school, we used to call it for points. To score points from your teachers. Go and worship the teacher at the end of the lesson. At one point it became a real nuisance to our teachers. Because one guy started it off and then everybody else wanted to do it. So sometimes the teachers walking from one class to another, every child that can see this teacher, they run to the teacher, "Teacher, please, let me worship you." It became a real nuisance. And then they brought a rule at school: you can't worship teachers as they walk from class to class. Because that was not genuine. It was fake. It was an act to score points. It's a good thing to do, but still, it's not genuine. It's hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Do you pick up litter only because someone's watching? That's hypocrisy. When you get home and you see the sink and there's dishes that have been left unwashed. Okay? Let's say you're the last person to eat at home. You look at the dishes and you're the last person to eat. So after you've eaten, you're going to have to wash. You're going to have to wash up. Now you decide, no, I'm not that hungry. Simply because you don't want to do the washing up. You're such a hypocrite. If you do this, if you feel this way, then you're such a hypocrite. Because you just don't like to wash up. People do these things. They don't want to be the last guy out, because then they're going to have to wash up, they're going to have to sweep, they're going to have to shut the windows, shut the doors, draw the curtains. They don't like to do those things. They'll be there, they'll enjoy the facilities, they'll enjoy all the positives, the benefits that they can get, but they don't want to be the last guy to have to do all the hard work, clean up their mess. That's a hypocrite. Ask yourself if you're like that. Because as a hypocrite, you're not going to get very far on the path to Nibbana. Don't be that guy. Some people, they go to use the toilet. The toilet's dirty. They'll hold it without going to the toilet. Wait for somebody else to go. Now they have cleaned the toilet. Now I'll go. Why? Hypocrisy. Because if they go in, now they're expected to clean the toilet. I won't do it. I'm not prepared to do it. I just want to go get my job done and not do something for somebody else. A hypocrite is usually someone who doesn't do anything for the good of others. They'll only do something where there's good for them, where there's benefit for them. And if they can't see any benefit for them in doing it, they just simply won't do it. They'll find excuses to not do it. That's a hypocrite. Think about examples in your life where you are either you yourself or you have seen other people do such things. These are things we have to watch out for, because these are all kleshas. These are all defilements in our minds. For as long as these defilements reign within our minds, Nibbana is a long way away, a very long way away. Can you think of examples in your lives? Can you think of examples of other people you've seen doing things like that? They leave the dirty work for somebody else. They leave the mess for somebody else to clean up. Children, you have to be very careful. Sometimes you expect your mothers to clean up after you, to do the dirty work. That's a hypocrite. It's not good. It's not just not good, it's pretty bad. It's very bad. Nibbana is a long, long, long way away. So watch out. Be careful about these things. Don't fall victim. Sometimes some people, they don't like to be the last person to leave the office because they have to switch off the lights. They have to switch off the computers. Remove the teacups. They don't like to be the last person to have lunch sometimes. Because if the lunchroom, there's a rule which says that the last person to leave have to clean up all the dishes, remove all the dirty plates, then you just don't want to be the last person to leave. You make sure that there's always, you leave just before someone else finishes up. Hypocrite. But people forget that these are opportunities to earn merits. How does one earn merit? Is it by doing something for oneself or by doing something for somebody else? Somebody else. You earn merit by doing something for somebody else. Sometimes, let's say, a dog's come and littered in front of your house. But the dog has littered in front of not only your house, but also next door neighbor's house. Now you decide, I better clean up. You get out a spade or something like that. You come out, and then you just clean out the bit that's in front of your house. The bit that's in front of the next door neighbor's house, now that's his problem to look after. You're a hypocrite. How many times have you parked in front of somebody else's gate? Somebody else's entrance, and said, nah, I'll be back real quick. You know very well that you shouldn't be parking up there because it's going to cause them an inconvenience, but you park up in front of somebody else's house, somebody else's gate. How many times have you parked in a disabled space? Don't know if they have them in Sri Lanka. Do they? Yeah. A disabled space. Over a space reserved for pregnant mothers. Because they need an extra bit of space, extra room. They need more room. How many times have you parked up where you're not supposed to park? I said, I'll be real quick. Are you not putting someone else at inconvenience? Would you like for someone else to do that for you? To you, rather? Would you like someone else to do that unto you? If you do something to somebody else that you don't like done to you, there's a word for that. You're called a hypocrite. Some people, I remember, back then when we used to use public toilets, going out in the public, right? Sometimes even in the workplace. Some people don't care how they leave public toilets after they have used them. Sometimes towels that they have used are just left all over the place. Some in the sink, some on the floor, some around the toilet. Sometimes people use the toilet. I don't know why I even have to say this in sermons, but this is what I find people doing. You go to a toilet, sometimes people have used it, they haven't even brushed it, they haven't even flushed it, and they leave it like that. Why? Because they don't like to press the flush button, because that's going to get dirt on their finger. So what has to happen? Somebody else has to come and go through that process. Hypocrisy. Extreme hypocrisy. First class hypocrisy. Ask yourselves, do you do these things? Nibbana is a very, very long way away. Do you open the tap and then not close it because it's going to get your hand dirty? Some people do that. Some people don't wash their hands before they open the tap, after they've used the toilet. Hypocrisy. You don't like it done to you, but you don't care about doing it to somebody else. Hypocrisy. Oftentimes I've found myself, because I believe that wherever I go, and I try to make this a rule to myself, wherever I go, I like to leave a place at least in one way better than I found it. So I remember when I used to go to toilets, a public toilet even, if I used to see paper towels thrown all over the place, and if there's a bin, I used to take another paper towel, pick up all these paper towels and put them in the bin and leave. Because I want to leave the place better than I found it, so that somebody else can come and enjoy it. What do you do? Ask yourself. Don't be a hypocrite. Ask yourself. If you have clothes out in the clothesline after you wash them, and the rain is about to fall, you look out. None of it is mine. I don't care. Are you like that? If you are, there's a word for that. Yes. A first class, a world class hypocrite. You should be given an award. You don't have to go and pick them up simply because it's not yours. Well, what if it was your clothes on the clothesline and you weren't at home? Would you not expect someone at home to do that on your behalf? Well, if someone else can do it for you, why can't you do it for somebody else? This is why I say always, the simplest way to find out if you should do something or not is ask yourself, would you like someone else to do this to you? Attanang upamang katva. Put yourself in their shoes, the Buddha says. Ask yourself, would you like someone else to do this to you? If the answer is yes, go ahead, because you're now doing it with good intention. If the answer is no, then don't, because that's bad, it's wrong. It might be the right thing to do, but if you don't like it done to you, then don't do it, because your intentions are bad, your intentions are evil. Even if it's the right thing to do, your intentions are evil, so you shouldn't do it, because you don't like it done to you. So I'm giving you examples. If you see some water spilled, maybe in the kitchen, do you just turn a blind eye? You can see by the sink there's water, there's a water spillage. Or you just turn a blind eye, you quickly run to your room, pretending that you haven't seen it. Oh, here's a better one. Sometimes you find food having gone off in the fridge. You pretend that you haven't seen it. Sometimes food items have gone moldy, right? Maybe some old vegetables, maybe some fruit that's gone bad. It's in the fridge. You open the fridge to get yourself a bottle of water. but you've just seen that something's not right. What do? Do you just turn a blind eye? And then there's a word for that. Yes. A world-class one. Because if it was up to you, if that was your fridge, if you're the mother, if you're the father at home, what would you want your children to do for you? If they see that there's something, it can be anybody, maybe the husband, maybe the wife, they see something's going off in the fridge, they just turn a blind eye. Now someone else will look after that. Sometimes when people put stuff things into a cupboard, right? You stuff things into the cupboard and you know that the next time someone opens this, everything's going to fall on their head. So you squeeze that last bit into the cupboard and quickly shut the door. Why? Now it's not your problem, is it? Now it's somebody else's problem. Because the next time someone comes and opens the cupboard, then everything's on their head. If you're someone who does like that, there's a word for that. You're a world-class hypocrite. So ask yourself, do you find yourself doing these things? If you're one of two brothers at home, you need to go to class or go to school and you're looking about, you can't find a pencil. You need a pencil to take to school. You're looking around, there's no pencil. Where's my pencil? It's gone. You quickly open their pencil case, take their pencil, pen or whatever item of stationery you want, put it into yours. Now you're okay for school. But what have you just done? You've just put someone else into a very difficult situation, haven't you? Yes. What's the word for that? That's right. Hypocrisy. There are seats reserved on buses, trains, for the elderly, for the clergy, for pregnant mothers, right? Have you not seen people? When someone who that seat is reserved for gets onto the bus, all of a sudden, they're busy reading a newspaper. Sometimes that newspaper is upside down. Quite interesting how they can manage to read that. Or sometimes, yes, sometimes they're asleep. A moment ago, they were looking about, enjoying the sights. 2 moments later, they're snoring. Why? Because I'd rather be inconvenienced rather than be inconvenienced. I'd rather put someone else into inconvenience and enjoy my convenience. Hypocrite. World-class hypocrite. Never do that. Never do that. Because if you are the kind of person that does that, then Nibbana is a very long way off. Sometimes you go into places and ask for favors. You know that there's a long queue, right? There's a long queue. Maybe it's for the doctor, for an appointment. You quickly run to the desk, appointment desk. Can you sort something out for me? I'm so and so. I'm connected to this guy. Oh, sometimes you just speak in English. That's enough to get yourself an upgrade. Do you not find yourself speaking in English just to get yourself favors? People do this. All of a sudden you switch to speaking in English because now you want to get yourself a favor. You want to earn yourself a favor. You want to look like the respectable guy. Can you give me an upgrade? Can you get me to see the doctor sooner? I'm in a rush. And I said, let me see what I can do for you, sir. Because that person's innocent. They can't do anything about it because they know that you are an influential person. So their job is at risk. You have just put them into a very difficult situation. This is what happens. You can't blame them. You can't blame the person at the desk who's supporting you, who's helping you to get that appointment, because you've just gone. In other words, really, you're threatening them. In an indirect way, you're threatening them. You're saying, hey, I'm a connected guy, so if you know what's best for you, you had better give me an appointment to see the doctor sooner. Because this is why you're talking about your connections. You're threatening them. Now this guy feels helpless. If I don't address your need, chances are I'm going to get a telling off. So I'm going to do it. Now those people who might have come to the clinic, maybe they've been there since 6 o'clock in the morning. You just arrived. You get to go sooner and everyone else has to wait. Who are you to say that your illness is more serious, needs sooner, quicker attention than everybody else's? Who are you to make that call? Hypocrite. Ask yourselves, do you find yourselves in these situations? Sometimes it may be to get a child into school. People do these things. Just to get their child into school, they go and speak to the principal. Sir, my child, school. Yeah, there's a long waiting list. Just put your application and we'll see what we can do. Oh, no, but don't say like that. Surely there must be something that we can come to an arrangement. Surely we can come to an arrangement, right? Now you're using your knowledge, you're using your connections, your power, or you're using your wealth for special treatment. Special treatment. This is not part of how the system works, but you're asking for favorations. You're inconveniencing somebody else for your convenience. And the word for that is hypocrite. Nibbana is a very long way off. So ask yourself, do you find yourself in these situations? Do you find yourself doing these things? If so, you had better reconsider. Because what you're saying is, as long as I get to be happy, I don't care about what other people have to go through. For as long as I'm in convenience, or I'm in a state of convenience, I don't care what other inconveniences other people have to go through. I urge you, introspect, look into your lives. Look at those places where, these are festering wounds. These are festering wounds that have been tucked away. No one looks at these things, because what happens is, after a while, this becomes the normal. This becomes normalized. This becomes the accepted way that society works. Because nowadays it's not really an odd thing, is it, to go to an office and ask for a favor? To put yourself ahead of the queue? It's the normal thing now. It's the done thing now. But it's still wrong. What if you're the next guy in the queue? How are you going to feel? If you had been there since 6 o'clock in the morning, someone just turned up, it's 8 o'clock, the doctor comes at 8:30. You've been there since 6 o'clock in the morning because you have an urgent requirement to see the doctor. Guy comes at 8 o'clock, the doctor is going to come at 8:30. You go in front of the queue and says, can I get to see the doctor before everybody else? If you're the guy who was there at 6 o'clock, how are you going to feel? How are you going to feel? Attanang upamankattva. Put yourself in their shoes. Now ask yourself. If you would not like to be treated like that, then don't treat somebody else like that. It may be that you have a very urgent need. That's a different matter. Maybe it's an emergency for you. That's okay. Right? Maybe it's life and death for you, and for the other guys, it's not so much. Then ask the receptionist, this is my situation. Is it okay if I get to see the doctor sooner? But there's no requirement to do so. And if the receptionist is in a position where they can check that and say, yeah, actually, you know what, I think you need to see the doctor sooner than everybody else, then okay, that's fine. Or sometimes it's out of respect. Like, for example, clergy. They get put in front of the queue. It's not something we've asked for. It's just the way that society works. I never walk up to the reception and ask, can you put me in front of everybody else? It's just the way that society works, and that is because of respect for the Mahasangha. It's not a privilege I enjoy because of who I am. It's because of who the Buddha was. This is why there are seats reserved for the clergy on the bus. But apparently nowadays, even those seats, clergy don't get to use. So I've heard. Sometimes even those seats are occupied nowadays. And people just pretend that nothing's going on. Hypocrites. This world is full of them. The question is, are you one of them? If so, then change. You can change. Dogs can't change what they are, who they are. Cows can't change what they are, who they are. But you're a human being. You can change who you are. You can change what you are. You can change. So change then. Isn't change all about what Nibbana is? Isn't that what Nibbana is? Change? How do you get to Nibbana if you don't change, if you can't change? Put your hand up if you have attained Nibbana. So it's something we are yet to do, right? What has to happen? Change. There are qualities about you, there are attributes about you that have to change. That's when you attain Nibbana. Until the last moment, you may be an anagami right now. But there's one attribute about you that has to change before you become an arahant. So change. You have to be able to change. Change for the better. Change for good. Make sure you're okay, you're willing to change. Make sure you're prepared to change. Start with the small things in life. If you don't make your bed in the morning, make sure you start doing it. Don't expect your mother or your father to make your bed. Start polishing your own shoes. You're pretty capable of doing that. You don't have to get your parents to do that. Start washing your own dishes. You don't have to get your parents to do that. Ask yourself, what can you do at home? Can you sweep the house? Can you sweep the gardens? Ask yourself, can you at least water the flowers? Ask yourself, what can you do? Not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Start with your home. Start with the family. It's not what my family can do for me. It's what I can do for my family. It's not what my parents can do for me. It's what I can do for my parents. It's not what my husband can do for me. It's what I can do for my husband. And not what my wife can do for me. It's what can I do for my wife. If what you get is what you give, well, what you get is not what you get given. What you get is what you give. So if you want to get something, you have to give something. The more you give, the more you get, the more you receive. You have to give to get, to receive. So give as much as you can. Some of you may be time rich and money poor, like you or you. Time rich but money poor. As you grow older, you'll be money rich and time poor until you retire. Then again, time rich and money poor. Some people are both time poor and money poor, both. So if you are money rich and time poor, now you can give money. You can give the wealth that you have. Whatever you have, give. Whatever you're prepared to give, give. Whatever you can give, give. But what if you're time rich and money poor? Now you don't have anything to give? Yes. Yeah, you can give your time. You can help a lady cross the street. You can go and spend some time in an orphanage, in an old people's home. Spend some time there. Give. Giving your time. You're not giving money, give your time. I think every child has to, under of course their parents' guidance, spend at least a day in an old people's home to understand what growing old is all about. Because before long they're going to find their parents in that situation. They have to prepare themselves. They have to be able to accept life's reality. This is what life is going to bring them. Because a lot of young people these days, they only live for the moment. They don't know what's coming. They're not even prepared to think about what's coming. Therefore, they don't see the urgency of wanting to change, the need to change. I think all young people have to spend at least a day in an old people's home. I think all young people have to spend at least a day in an orphanage to understand the value of parents, to understand the value of the parents that they have and what it is to not have your parents. I think all young people, all young children have to go through that experience. I think all young children have to spend at least a day at a hospital, maybe a cancer hospital. Go and spend a day there. See what it's like. That is what Prince Siddhartha went through. When he saw a sick man, when he saw an old man, when he saw a dead man, right? And of course, I think all children have to spend a day at a monastery. Of course, that goes without saying. So they can see what an ascetic is like. Someone who tries to overcome, put a stop to all those problems in life. I think all young children have to spend at least a day in all these 4 places. So parents, here's something you can do with your children. I think it will make a lot of change, a lot of difference in their lives. Just a day. Just a day. If they like the experience, they'll say, Ami, can I go another day? So don't have to force them to go a week. Just spend them for a day. Just spend the day. It's going to be, maybe it might be tough, but spend the day there. And then once they get back home, ask them, Buddha, how was the day there? Dua, how was the day? How was your day? What did you learn? What did you find out? Did you get to speak to the patients at the hospital? What did they say? Were there only old people there, or were there young people there as well? What did the young people say? Did they not say that they had a lot of plans and goals and ambitions in their lives? But what has now happened to their goals, plans and ambitions? Have they not become helpless? Are they not just waiting for their death to come and knock on the door? Buddha, what if this happens to you one day? Are you prepared? You take a lot of time to go and take them to go and spend time with their friends, or maybe pleasure land, or what? Leisure world, what do you call them? Leisure world, right? Leisure world. Well, why don't you take them, just spend 1 day at the hospital, 1 day at an orphanage, 1 day at an old people's home, 1 day at the monastery. New Year's coming, so I've given you a New Year's resolution. If you have children, particularly, parents, here's a New Year's resolution. Make sure that within the next year, before the next Sinhala New Year, your child has spent 1 day at an orphanage, 1 day at an old people's home, 1 day at the hospital, and 1 day at the monastery. Doesn't have to be this monastery, wherever you like them to be. Just 1 day. I guarantee it will make a transformational change in their lives. Some children who we talk to on a regular basis, who live in other countries, like once a month, once every 2 months, we have a chat with them. I know quite a few young children now who've been doing drugs. Their mothers don't know about it, their fathers don't know about it. But they have given up. Some have been addicted to sex, addicted to drugs. They have given up. They're starting to realize the value of life. Some children, particularly, you're lucky that your children are with you and at least they understand the value of looking after their parents, treating their parents and so on. But in a lot of other countries, this is, they don't get to see them very often. They don't get to see the value of parents very often, because they don't learn about these things at school. I think in some countries, they don't even have religious education at school, because it's considered to be brainwashing children. Some countries, they don't even teach religion. Only science, maths, language. Children don't need religion, apparently. So they don't get to learn about the value of anything, really, except the things that money can buy. They don't get to learn about the value of parents, value of another person, good values, being kind, being generous. They don't get to learn about these things. Some children who we speak to, who live in other countries, and I'm not going to name the countries because then it's going to become obvious who we're talking about. Some children, they have never swept the house ever in their life. 16 years, never once. Listen to the Dhamma. Now they don't let their mother sweep the house. They do it. Never washed their dishes, never made their bed, ever in their lives. But now they have started doing it. It's not magic, simply the Dhamma. The Dhamma has touched their lives. So, New Year's coming along. It's about time you started making those New Year resolutions. What are you going to do for your children? Let's talk about the theory, the boring stuff. So you've been listening to these sermons for a while now, right? We've been talking about vexation, we're talking about pleasure, we're talking about how pleasure is the relief from vexation. Do you have any questions? Or is it all making sense? Are you understanding now that pleasure cannot be found in a state? What do I mean by a state? It's not the United States. State. A situation. Rash. You have a rash. You feel an itch. You haven't started scratching yet. Pleasure? No. Pain. Suffering. You have finished scratching. You've gone through the process of scratching. Now finished. Pleasure? Is it pleasure now? No. Because now again it's a state where you have finished scratching. But now you're in the process of scratching. Now you experience pleasure. Do you see that pleasure is always the outcome of a process? The process has to be running for you to experience pleasure. It's not there before the process. It's not there after the process. It's only there during the process. Relief from vexation is something that happens during the process. I mean, that is the name of the process. Relief from vexation. What you experience then is pleasure. But it has to happen during the process, not before and not after. Hunger again, for example. You haven't started eating yet. Pleasure? No, that's vexation. You have filled your tummy with food. Pleasure? Okay, let's say it's not full. Half. You have filled your tummy with half food. Still, there's more. If you were to eat, you could eat more. Right? But you have eaten half. Is it pleasure now? No. But during the process of eating, while food is going into your tummy, now your hunger is being relieved. You see, that's a process. With every mouthful that goes inside your stomach, you're being relieved. With every mouthful, you're being relieved of hunger. So this pleasure is the outcome of a process. This process has to be running live. It has to be running. While it's running, you experience pleasure. This is why Guru Hamdra used the example of the fan. The fan's pointing at you. Pleasure? The fan's pointing away from you. Pleasure? No. The fan's not pointing at you, now it's pointing at you, and now it's pointing away from you. That process, that oscillation, that is when you experience pleasure. Where there was pain, and there's a process now that's being run that's relieving you from that pain. Relief from pain, really, or relief from suffering, relief from vexation is a process. Relief from vexation is a process. Like Pelimin Nidahaswim, right? This is what Ashvada is. Pelimin Nidahaswim, relief from vexation, is a process. It's not a state, it's a process. And only while this process is being run can you experience pleasure. So, if I were to ask you the question, you know, we've been talking about the mind, the mind, or rather the consciousness, chittas, right? They arise and pass away. Now, we've been talking about that for some time now. What is it that arises? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Is that what arises? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana arises. Yes. But what are we trying to give rise to? Who's interested in Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana? Are you interested in Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana? Yeah, I've got some Rupa. Would you like some? What are you interested in? Pleasure. Remember the why and the what we talked about? What you're attached to is Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, yes. But there's a reason why you're attached to that, and that's the why. That's because you find them pleasurable. Take away the pleasurable, you're no longer interested in Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Why did you want to go out with that girl? Because she was pretty. Take away pretty, you no longer want to go out with her. Why did you want to eat that piece of cake? Delicious. Take away delicious, not interested anymore. I'm not talking about hunger. You need food to sate your hunger. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about pleasing your tongue, or pleasing your mind through your tongue. Why your tongue? Right? There always has to be a why for you to be attached to the what. There's why and what. You're attached to the what, but because of the why. If you take away a reason to attach, you're no longer going to be attached. This is why, remember, we talked about the beautiful flower? Beautiful flower. Yes? Oh, my child. Who are you attached to? Child. Why? My. What are you attached to? Beautiful flower. Is it beautiful or flower you're attached to? Flower. Why? Beautiful. Take away beautiful. How many flowers do you have at home that are not beautiful? None. If you don't find them beautiful, they would never have made their way into your home, right? They would not have had the opportunity to come into your home if they weren't beautiful. So this is why when we talk about ignorance, we try to address the composition of the why, not the what. Because it doesn't matter what you're attached to. That's not the problem. You could be attached to whatever you want. That's not the problem. Attach yourself to whatever you want. The why is where we need to address. Take away the why, take away a need. Right? So in sales, for example, okay, if any of you are in sales, how do you sell something to somebody? What do you show them? The benefits. Right? It's no good talking to people about features. So when I used to be in sales, the first lesson I got in sales was, don't talk to your customers about features. Talk to them about the benefits. Features is one, benefits is another. The car can go fast. That's a feature. The car is going to get you to work on time. That's a benefit. Now I'm giving you lessons in sales. Incredible the things you learn when you come here. I think we should start charging you for these sermons. You attach yourself to the benefit. Or rather, you attach yourself to the feature, but because of the benefit. So when you say beautiful flower, you attach yourself to the flower, but because it's beautiful. Take away the benefit, you would never have bought the car. When you get into a car, when you start looking for a car, or when you start house hunting, right? What are the things you start thinking about? Okay, you say you want two bathrooms and 3 beds. 3 bed, 2 bath. You're looking for a 3 bed, 2 bath. Okay? Why? Just because? No, not just because. Someone might invest in that house because it's going to have value in future. It's going to go up in value, and therefore you're going to get a better return. You can sell that house in the future and get more money for it. Investment. Okay? Now you're thinking about, it's going to bring me more money in the future, therefore I'm going to be able to buy more things and be happy, and more money, more wealth, more happiness. This is your benefit. You're buying the house, but because this is going to be a good investment. Or you have 2 children and they always fight. Ayya and Mali can't sleep in the same bedroom. Or Ayya and Nangi can't sleep in the same bedroom. So you have to therefore give them 2 bedrooms, their own bedroom. Now the benefit, if I were a house salesman, if I were a realtor, I would come and ask you, I would find out about your life first. I'll ask you, madam, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I have a son, I have a daughter. Oh really? How old are they? One's 13, the other's 12. Oh really? Young children? Yes. How do you find them? Are they good at home? No, they always fight at home. Oh, right. Mischievous? Very much. Do they manage to live together in the same house? Are they okay like that? No, they're like devils when they're together. So would you rather that you separate them, at least while they're sleeping? That would be a great idea. Oh, fantastic. You know what? I've just found a house for you. 3 beds. 1 for you and your husband, 1 for your son, 1 for your daughter. How does that sound? I'll take 2 of them, please. You have just sold them the house on the benefit. Because that was the why. You come up to me and say it's got 3 beds, 2 bathrooms. So what? You can't sell something to somebody on features. You have to sell them on benefits. Sales top tips. Please make a donation before you leave, okay? So even with sight, sound, smells, taste, touch, the things that we attach ourselves to in this world, and Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, ultimately which come into our mind, the reason that we attach to these things is because we find them beautiful. We find them pleasurable. We find them yummy, delightful, right? Delicious. These are all words for pleasure. And it's because we find things pleasurable, we attach ourselves to them. Right? Take away, think about diamonds. Would anyone have attached themselves to diamonds if no one would have told them that diamonds are valuable? Otherwise, it just looks like glass. How did you realize that diamonds are valuable? Did you discover that yourself? No, someone told you diamonds are valuable. What about gold? Someone told you they're valuable. So they gave you a reason, they gave you a why. Now you're attached. Show a young child a piece of diamond, some gold. A young child. No, I don't want that. I want the toffee. I want the chocolate. I want the car. Show a child the will to, or rather the deed to a land, a piece of land, or you ask them, would you like this or would you like a chocolate? Child's going to say, I'm going to take the chocolate. Right, but one's more valuable than the other. Which one? Well, it depends on who you ask. Right? Depends on who you ask. Because one finds the chocolate pleasurable and have no value in the deed. But as an adult, you find the deed more valuable and not the chocolate. Because, you see, you're attached to the deed, the child's attached to the chocolate. The what is different. Why is the what different? Why is the what different? Because the why is different. You following what I just said there? The what is different. One's attached to the will, the other's attached to the chocolate. So the what is different, right? The thing that you're attached to is different. This is the what. But why is the what different? It's because the why is different. One finds pleasure in the chocolate, the other finds pleasure in the deed. So take away the why. Why do you no longer play with your dolls? Women, ladies in the house, why do you no longer play with your dolls? Why, sir, do you not play with your toy cars anymore? Did you not used to have them? Yes, used to. So the what hasn't changed, has it? The doll still the doll. The car still the car. So the what never changed. What changed? Why changed? So take away why, you have no longer a reason to attach to the what. This is why in Buddhist philosophy we discuss the why, not the what. We have no interest in what it is you're attached to. It doesn't matter. We talk about Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. If I were to ask you to give me a sermon on Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana for an hour, how many of you would be able to successfully do that? Mehenin Wahanse might. So it really doesn't matter what the what is. What matters is what the why is. Because that is what we try to tackle. This is what we need to spend time talking about. Because take away the why, you're not going to be attached to anything. There's a reason why you're attached. Think about marriage. Two people will live together for as long as there are reasons for them to live together. Marriage is the what? That marriage will last for as long as there are whys. Why must I live with this person? They look after me, they feed me, they take care of me, right? All these reasons. Take away the reasons, then they're faithful to me. That's another reason. There's a why. Take away the why, you're not attached to the what. So this is why when we talk about Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, or sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, we have to talk about ashvada. We have to talk about pleasure. That is why we don't spend any time talking about the composition of rupa. How many types of rupa there are? 28 types of rupa. This is why we don't spend any time talking about Abhidhamma. About the pure octet, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Patvi, Varna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? Whether it's Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana or Nila Champa Kamala Rekha, who cares? Did you not know? Okay, think about this for a moment, right? Until you began to listen to the sermons, none of you knew that it was Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, right? But you were still attached to them. None of us knew. I didn't know. It was Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana until I learned the Dhamma. But was I still not attached to them? Was it still not Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana that was going through in my mind? Yes, it was still that. But I was attached to it. I didn't even know what I was attached to, because it's not the what that matters. I had a reason. I had a why. They are pleasurable. For as long as something's pleasurable, I don't care what I'm attached to. I just want it. This is why we spend time talking about pleasure and the true nature of pleasure. Not the what, the why. So we know what pleasure is now. What is pleasure? It is the outcome of a process. The process has to be running. It's while the process is running. Imagine there's a wheel that's turning. As soon as this wheel comes to a stop, you can no longer experience pleasure. Before it has started to turn, you cannot experience pleasure. While it's turning, now you can experience pleasure. So our young monks, remember last week I talked to you about this program we have at the monastery, personality development program, right? So last week they produced 3 artifacts which demonstrate how pleasure, vexation, how these things work. So next week you will get to see them. Next Sunday they will bring these artifacts over here and they will demonstrate it to you. They were really interesting bits of work. So make sure you make time to come along next week. So they wanted to brush up the thing, make sure it was ready to show to the public, and they'll bring it along next week, and then they will demonstrate it to you. How pleasure is experienced during this process. It's not there in a state. It has to happen during the process. And it's also only there for as long as attachment is there in the picture. As soon as you switch off attachment, now you can no longer experience pleasure. and no longer experience vexation. So is it a bad thing that you can't experience pleasure? When you attain Nibbana, when you become an Arahant, you can't experience pleasure. Uh-oh. Is that how you feel? You have to get used to it. Do you feel that? I don't want to become an Arahant because you're telling me that once I become an Arahant, I'm not going to be able to experience pleasure. I'm going to have to get used to that. What is pleasure? It is a relief from vexation. Without vexation, without suffering, there's no pleasure. So if one's saying that I'm going to miss out on my pleasure, what they're really saying is I'm going to miss out on my vexation. Hunger really is a good example in that situation. If you like food going into your stomach, that's because you're hungry. With every mouthful that you take in, your hunger is relieved by that much. If every mouthful has the capacity to relieve you of 20 units of hunger, and you're starting off with 100 units of hunger, right? With every mouthful, you're being relieved of 20 units of hunger. So the first mouthful goes in. Now your hunger has reduced by 20 units, and it's now 80 units of hunger. That 20 which reduced, that is what pleasure is. But it's only there while the food's going in. After it's gone in, no more. Now your default state is 80 units of hunger, that's it. That 20 units of relief from hunger, you only experienced while the food was going in. While the food was dropping into your stomach, that's when you felt it. Seriously, think about it, right? Let's say you've been served some food on a plate. You start eating. You're really hungry. You've taken a mouthful. And now someone takes away your plate. Are you feeling pleasure or are you still feeling hunger? You're feeling hunger. But while that mouthful went into your stomach, during the process, that few minutes, might have been a minute or a few seconds, during that time you felt pleasure. But now you're not feeling pleasure. Now you're complaining about hunger. Why are you complaining about the hunger? You should be happy about the pleasure that you had. But you can't be because now there is no pleasure to talk about. Because the food has already gone in. The only way you're going to experience that again is if you regurgitate. Pull it back into your mouth, push it back down into your stomach. Like cows do. Right? If you regurgitate your food, take it back into your mouth and then push it back down again. Now you can continue. 100 units of hunger, 80 units of hunger. 100 units of hunger, 80 units of hunger. That is the only way you can find pleasure. Someone takes away your food, now you can't experience pleasure again. All you're feeling now is the hunger, and that is the suffering, that is the pain of hunger, that's the vexation of hunger. So this process has to run. This is why sometimes, some questions I get from some people, and these are all reasonable, valuable questions because it helps to really get to the point of this. Let's say Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana has now arisen. This is at the peak of the curve. Now we freeze it. This Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana does not pass away. Let's imagine we created a way to do this. Right? Through magic or somehow, we have managed to find a way to freeze Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. That chitta does not pass away. Are you okay with that? Is that because of the way I asked the question? Why are you not okay with that? You can't just say you're not okay. Why? Why? Yes, that's right. Because now that's a state. Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana has now arisen. That 5 has now arisen. For you to experience pleasure, it has to pass away. It has to. And then arise again. Now you are experiencing pleasure because there was pain beforehand. No pain, no gain. There has to be pain before you can experience the gain. There has to be suffering before you experience pleasure. But when it passes away, now you're experiencing viparinama dukkha, right? So tell me, do you not like viparinama dukkha? Put your hand up if you don't like Viparinama Dukkha. If you really, really don't like Viparinama Dukkha, put your hand up. Because what happens if there's no Viparinama Dukkha? There's going to be no pleasure. Put your hand up if you don't like Sankhara Dukkha. If there's no Sankhara Dukkha, will there be pleasure? No. Put your hand up then if you don't like vexation. You do like it, right? I don't know why I'm wasting my time then. Week after week after week I'm talking to you about how do you remove vexation? How do you eradicate vexation? And I'm talking to a bunch of people who love vexation. I'm talking to a bunch of people who love to suffer. I'm talking, let's put a stop to suffering. I'm wasting my time. But isn't this the reality? So if you were able to freeze that chitta as it arose, that rupa vedana sanya sankhara vijnana, if you were able to freeze that, you can no longer experience pleasure. It has to pass away. It has to. If it didn't pass away, you would not be able to experience pleasure. And because it has now passed away, after it passes away, now you have to do abhisankara. You have to go through the toil, the effort, expend the energy to make it arise again. To get it to rise again, you have to go through the process of that. And that process is very vexatious. That process is full of suffering. And that's a good thing. Why? Because after you've given rise to rupa vedana sanya sankhara vijnana, now that process can come to a stop. You know the process of searching? Remember we talked about looking for your pair of keys? If you've lost it, you have to go looking for it. As soon as you found it, now you can stop looking for it. It's looking for your keys that has been the suffering part. Not the key. Not even losing your key. That wasn't the suffering part. Looking for your key. That was the suffering bit. Now that process can come to a stop because you found your keys. When that process comes to a stop, now you experience pleasure. So if you didn't have to do sankhara dukkha, if you didn't have to go through abhisankara, if you didn't have to go through viparinama, would you ever experience pleasure? No. Then for as long as you enjoy your pleasure, you must, there's no other choice, you must be willing and ready to suffer the pain of vexation. No pain, no gain. If you like the gain, you must also like the pain. Isn't that a really distorted mindset? I like pain. I like torture. I like torture because when I'm relieved from that, I feel pleasure. I like pain because when I'm relieved from pain, I feel pleasure. That's a really distorted mindset. It's a really distorted mentality, is it not? Don't you feel that way? I like pain. I like pain because it's only relief from pain that brings me pleasure. And remember, pleasure is not something that comes externally. It's not an additional thing that comes into the picture. It's only the relief from pain that is pleasure. That's a really important point to understand. It's only the relief from pain. Right? For example, if you have your arm clenched like this, right? After a while it's going to start hurting. It's going to go numb, it's going to start hurting. Now in this state, it's painful. When you extend your arm, now it's going to be, in that state, again, there's no pleasure there. This is why after a while you're going to clench your arm again. You're going to fold your arm again, right? So in neither of these two states are you going to find pleasure. Pleasure is only going to be found while you're extending. While you're extending. So start. T equals 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At t equals 8, you have stopped that process. At t equals 9, are you experiencing pleasure? No. At t equals minus 1, are you experiencing pleasure? At t equals 0, are you experiencing pleasure? You're only experiencing pleasure during the process. From 1 to 8. That's the time duration during which this process is happening. You're being relieved of that vexation. Now you're experiencing pleasure. But that pleasure didn't come from anywhere. Did you see pleasure coming towards you? No, all that happened was this pain was being relieved. The pain was being relieved, so pain is now reducing. It's the reduction of pain that you experience as pleasure. I think that's the best way to put it. It's reduction of pain that you experience as pleasure, not the introduction of pleasure. Pleasure didn't come from anywhere. It's simply the reduction of pain. If there were 100 units of pain as you had your arm folded, now as you extend your arm, the pain has gone down to say 70 units. That 30, reduction of the 30 units of pain is the 30 units of pleasure that you're experiencing. So true pleasure is nowhere to be found. Do you not feel like you've been tricked? Isn't this the biggest trickery ever? The biggest foolery? There is no bigger trickery than this. There's no bigger foolery than this. It's the reduction of pain that we experience as pleasure. Pleasure didn't come from anywhere. It's like if you're in debt. You're in debt by 1,000 rupees. Okay? Someone gives you money. Or let's say the bank decides to clear off your debt. Would you like that? So this is only a hypothetical situation. Don't keep your hopes high. Never gonna happen, okay? Never gonna happen. Dream on. You're in 1,000 rupees of debt. The bank decides to clear your debt. Or let's say you owe some money to a friend. Okay? You owe some money to your friend. And your friend decides, what the heck? It's New Year. I'm gonna write off your debt. They're not gonna give you any money. You're not gonna be any richer at the end of the process. What they're going to say is, I clear off your debt, you don't owe me anything much. Have you become any richer? Do you have any more money in your wallet compared to the moment before that? No. If you were bankrupt, if you didn't have a penny in your wallet, before this friend said that, wrote off your debt, you don't have a penny right now even after the fact. So the amount of money that you have in your bank, the amount of money that you have in your wallet, in your purse, that hasn't changed. All that's happened is you have been relieved of debt. That you experience as pleasure. So money didn't come from anywhere. All that happened was a negative thing reduced the amount of negativeness. Up until it came to zero. Can it go up any beyond that? Can it? No. If you owe money to a friend, what's the best that they can do to you? Do for you even. If they give you more money, what's going to happen? Your debt increases. Right? If they give you more, so you might say, well, actually they could give me some money. Well, what's going to happen then? You're going to be even more in debt. So the best thing someone that you are in debt to can do for you is write off your debt. Say, you don't owe me any more money. Because if they give you more money, you're in more debt. So the only thing that they can do for you is write off your debt. Right? So you are not any more richer at the end of that process. While they write off your debt, when they write off your debt, now the amount of money you have has not changed, but the amount by which you were in debt, that has changed from 1,000 to 0. They can't give you any more money. Because if they did, you're in debt again. Do you understand that? So this is what pleasure is. It's being relieved of debt. Is another way to put it. Being relieved of debt is pleasure. Being relieved of pain is pleasure. Being relieved of vexation is pleasure. Pleasure didn't come from anywhere. It's not an additional thing that is not like something you can wear around your neck. You go, see, yeah, pleasure, look. It's not something like that. There was a void, and that void was filled. That's all. You didn't get anything in addition. You didn't get a bonus. It's just a void being filled. That's what it is. Because if we understand that, really, then we begin to realize the point, where the Buddha says to that Brahmin who went and asked the Buddha, where is the world located? And the Buddha said, the world is pivoted on dukkha. The world stands on dukkha. Dukkho loke patittita. The world stands on dukkha. The world is pivoted on dukkha. The reason he said this is because there is no pleasure really to be found. Pleasure is nothing other than a fantasy. It's like a dream. When you wake up from your dream, what happened to the dream? What about all those people in your dreams? Yes. They're no longer to be seen. They're nowhere. It was just a dream. Pleasure is much the same. Actually, pleasure is worse than a dream. Because the things you do to be happy in a dream, there are no consequences. But the things you do to achieve pleasure, oh boy. This is why you're here today. This is why you've grown old. This is why you fell sick. This is why you have to die. This is why you broke a leg. Right? This is why you feel hunger. Because of pleasure. Because of your attachment to pleasure. Dreams are very harmless, but pleasure, extremely harmful. But it's like a dream. It's a fantasy. It's a make-believe world. It's like reading a novel, like a fantasy novel. It's like watching a movie. Where are those actors? The story that they played out in the movie. Is that a real life story? No, they're just acting. It's not real. It's like a cartoon. Where's Pink Panther? Where does he live? He's not there. It's just acting. It's just a cartoon. It's just a make-believe world. Where are the Ninja Turtles? Where do they live? It's just a make-believe world. They're not really out there. Hopefully you knew that. It's like Santa Claus. He's not really out there. It's just a make-believe thing. But when you talk to a child about Santa Claus, makes them really happy, right? I remember when my parents first told me about Santa, my first Christmas, or not my first Christmas, the first Christmas that I actually knew. I knew this was Christmas. They said, when you wake up tomorrow morning, under your pillow, you're going to find a present. We didn't have a Christmas tree back then. But they said, under your pillow, you're going to find a present, and Santa will bring it. But I didn't fall asleep all night. I wanted to catch Santa. So I burned the midnight oil, stayed up throughout the night, woke up in the morning, or rather I might have fallen asleep for maybe an hour or so, and I thought, I fell asleep. I must have missed him. That's probably when he came. I lifted my pillow and there was nothing underneath. I was really sad that day. I still remember. The first Christmas I waited for Santa to come. Until then I didn't know about Santa. Then I learned that Santa is someone who comes on Christmas Day and leaves a present. So I waited for Santa to do that. No, there was no Santa. So I was really sad about it. I hung my face for the whole day. I didn't even talk to my parents. Until later on they said, no, it was just a story. We just made it up. Later on only I realized that it was just a make-believe thing. And Ashwada is much the same. This pleasure is much the same. It's like Santa. The things that you tell to your children to put them to sleep at night. Fairy tales. Like Santa, like Ashwada. These are the things that put you to sleep at night. What? Pleasure. Ashwada. Because if not for pleasure, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Would you? If all you could think about was the vexations that you have, the frustrations of life, the pains of life, the torture of life, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night. That's when you have a sleepless night. Why do people like to watch a teledrama before they go to bed? Read a nice book, a novel. go on their phone and maybe watch a video, or go and spend some time on Facebook, have a fairy tale read out to them. Because in these books, in these stories, they find pleasure. But this is a make-believe world. They create a world so people can just live forgetting all the pains that they have in their life. In some countries, they invest a lot of money in industries, in the entertainment industry. The state invests a lot of money in the entertainment industry. I think India is one of them. And I'm sure there are many other countries where the state, the government, spends a lot of money in developing that industry, because when people get to watch a movie, girl and a guy running around a tree, having a good time, right? Now they have a make-believe world in which they can live. Now they forget all the vicissitudes of life. They forget all the atrocities of life, all the pains of life, all forgotten. They forget now that this child has no school to go to. They forget that there's no dinner on the plate for tomorrow. They forget all those problems. They forget that the bills haven't been paid. India was just an example. A lot of countries, they do this. Right? So, the reason they do this is because it's a make-believe world. They create this world so that you can now live in a fantasy land. Otherwise, just think about, if you like watching teledramas, why do you like watching teledramas? Some people make it a habit. Watch a telly before you go to bed. What time is Ridipaya? Is it 7 to 8? Oh, don't watch, okay. I tried to catch you out. You're clever. You just don't like to admit it, right? No, just kidding. No, they do feel hunger. Yes. Because the body that we have is a vipaka. Right? For as long as we have a body, we are going to feel hunger, pain. Why do arahants go on pindapata? Right? So, physical pain, an end to physical pain is really death. With death comes end to all physical pain. But the problem is, for as long as the mind is in vexation, it's the mind that is being reborn again. And, the body that we have is like clothes that we wear. We keep changing our clothes, right? What you wear in the morning may not be what you wear in the evening. Every day you change your clothes. You get into pajamas, in the morning you change your clothes again, you go to work, change your clothes again, right? That's how, it's like that, how we go through in samsara. In this transmigration process, through this reincarnation process, we change our bodies, but the mind is what is vexing, and it's the mind that needs a body to relieve itself from vexation. So an arahant has a body. Why does an arahant have a body? It's a good question to ask. Because it wasn't an arahant that came into this world. An arahant was never someone who was born into this world. Whoever was born into this world, if it's a karma world, it was someone who was, at most, he would have been a sakrudagami. At worst, a prathagjana. Right? It's only a sakrudagami that can come into this world. If you become an anagami, you're never going to come back to the karma worlds. Yeah? So at most, you are a sakrudagami. At worst, you are a prathagjana. Or, well, beyond that, it will be an animal or a preta or something like that in these karma worlds, right? Just take a normal human being who is a prathagjana. The reason that this person comes into this world is because the mind is vexing. Because the mind is vexing for what? We remember the what and the why? The mind is vexing for what? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. But why? Because they're pleasurable. So for as long as the mind believes that Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana are pleasurable, the mind will want Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Even if the mind doesn't know about this. When we were born, did any of us know about Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana? We didn't know about any of these things. But we were after pleasure. Right? So the only way that pleasure can come, if you look at the technical detail of it, is when the mind is injected with Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Whether the mind knows about this or not has no bearing on this. The mind doesn't need to know about this. It's like medicine. You don't need to know what the medicine does. If you're injected with it, it's going to either do harm or good. You don't need to know what it's going to do, right? So like that, the mind can only be relieved of vexation when Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana are injected to the mind. But this relief is because the mind believes that what it's experiencing is pleasurable. So for the mind to be receiving Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, this Rupa has to come from the outside world. As Rupa Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Rasa Rupa, Sparsha Rupa and Dhamma Rupa. So Rupa Rupa can't come if you didn't have a pair of eyes. Shabda Rupa can't come if you didn't have a pair of ears. So sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, right? These things can't come if you didn't have your six senses. But a being cannot be born with just a pair of eyes. You need a body to support those eyes, or to support all the vital functions like feed, provide oxygen, blood, circulation, right? All these systems have to come into this body. Now when those systems come into the body, they need to be fed. They need to be given energy, and for that you need a stomach. And then when that stomach is empty, now you feel hunger. So even if you have become an arahant, that is just a change, a transformation that happens in the mind, not the body. The body is still the same body that this person came into this world with. So that body, that has a stomach, and that stomach feels hunger when the stomach is void of food. So this is why an arahant would go on pindapata. But an arahant never vexes mentally. All vexations are only physical. Remember, why did the Buddha permit us to, or monks, to make use of the 4 requisites? What are the 4 requisites? Food, shelter, medicine, and clothes. Which of these 4 are an answer to mental vexation? Which one of these 4 is an answer to mental vexation? None. Absolutely right. But all 4 of these are answers to physical vexation. So even an arahant, even the Buddha, needed these 4. Sivapase: food, shelter, clothing, and medicine. So the Buddha never said, oh, there's a 5th one, go and watch TV. Go and listen to songs. Go and watch a movie. Right? He never said that. Get a takeaway once a week. The Buddha never said that. Because what the Buddha is trying to say is, you don't need a 5th one. Because the 5th one, if you need it, all you need is really the Dhamma. Because you're mad. If you need a 5th one, which is want to watch TV, you're mad. Why? Because what are you looking for? Relief from mental vexation. What is mental vexation? It's a madness. Because mental vexation is where the mind is looking for Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana that it likes. You like something because you think it's pleasurable. If you didn't find it pleasurable, then you don't care whether it came or not. Whether it comes in or not, you don't care. But for as long as you like something, now you're looking for it. And when you're looking for it, that is very vexing. And as soon as you receive it, now you're relieved of vexation, now you experience pleasure. This is all madness. Insanity. This is why the Buddha never said there's a 5th requisite. There was only 4. These 4, and he gave something else, the Dhamma. For all mental vexations, the only answer is Dhamma, but the Dhamma can never relieve you of physical vexation. How much reflecting on anicca dukkha anatta will fill your hunger? You spend your whole day anicca dukkha anatta, anicca dukkha anatta, anicca dukkha anatta. You're hungry. Are you going to be able to fill your stomach with any food? No. This is why, in addition to the Dhamma, he gave the 4 requisites. He said, yes, you may use it, but nothing else. The basic requirements. See you pass it? So even an arahant feels hunger. Even an arahant falls sick. Even an arahant has to protect himself from the elements. This is why he wears a robe. And he needs a shelter. Right? So even an arahant requires these things. But these are all relief from physical vexation. There's nothing wrong with relieving yourself of physical vexation. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Do everything you need to do to relieve yourself of physical vexation. When you're ill, make sure you go and take some medicine. If you're hungry, eat something, for heaven's sake. Don't starve. Starving is not a technique in the Buddhist philosophy. It may be in other religions. You know that. But starving, where does the Buddha say starve yourself? He doesn't say that. He will have said, try and stick yourself to 1 meal a day. The reason he says is because not because you have to experience starving and the pain that comes from it. He says because when you spend time to consume more meals, your body has to go through the process of digestion. And that's very taxing on your body. And then every time you put food into your body, you're going to start feeling exhausted. You're going to start feeling tired because all the blood in your brain is going to go towards your stomach to start digesting all your food. Then, why did you come into this world? To eat as much food as you can? No. To put a stop to samsara. For that you have to be awake. For that you have to be alert. For that you have to be mindful and aware of what's going on. If all the blood in your mind, in your brain has now gone towards your stomach, now you're going to start falling asleep. This is why he says, monks, try and stick to 1 meal a day if you possibly can. And also back in those days, Swamin Wansis had to go on Pindapata, on alms rounds, sometimes many miles on foot. So then they didn't have much time to actually go and do their meditation, or listen to Bana or preach the Bana or whatever, right? So he said, try and dedicate as much amount of your of the time that you have in your life to practicing the path. But thanks to you, nowadays we don't have to go anywhere. We are so fortunate, we are so privileged to have people like you in our lives. Because all I have to do to get my afternoon meal is come down to the Dhanashala. I don't have to go on alms around the village. I don't have to go anywhere, thanks to you. And therefore I can dedicate a lot more of my time to practicing the Dhamma. But had it not been for you, then I would have to go on Pindapata. Because I don't make a living to feed myself. So because of you, I today get to spend much more of my time towards practicing the path. And if I had to do that, possibly we might not have sermons every week. Maybe we'll be doing it once every 2 weeks, maybe once every 3 weeks or once a month. Why? Because I'm spending a lot of time going on Pindapata. I don't have much time to practice the path, reflect on the Dhamma, try and learn, find out new ways to come and explain this to you. This is how we are looking after each other. You're helping us practice the path, and we are helping you to do what? The same thing. Because today the Dhamma is the glue that binds us together. Nothing else. It's not money that binds you and I together. Back when I was a layperson, it might have been money. Right? When you have business relationships, it's money that binds the two of you together. Back when I was a layperson, it might have been other things like love and affection that bound us together. But now it's just the Dhamma. There's only one street between you and I, and only one type of car can travel on this street. It's Dhamma. You give us the means to practice the Dhamma, and we give you the Dhamma in return. But that is not to say if you stop giving, we're not going to give you the Dhamma. It's not like that. Whether traffic comes our way or not, there's always going to be traffic coming from us to you. Because that is the way of the Buddha. But really good question. All beings, for as long as they're alive, they're going to feel hunger. You see, now that you ask that question, something that I explained to my mother earlier on today comes to mind. And I think it's a really interesting point, actually. When a child comes into this world, what do people do? Newborn. Yes, celebrate. They celebrate, right? When a person leaves this world, funeral. A funeral. So you wouldn't generally call it a celebration. It's a funeral. So it's time to mourn, right? For someone who doesn't believe in rebirth, okay, let's just say someone doesn't believe in rebirth, because my parents are still skeptical about that. And that's okay. You don't have to believe in rebirth to attain Nibbana. Do you? No. Because what is Nibbana? It is putting a stop to vexation when? Next birth? No, in this birth. So really, it doesn't matter whether you believe in rebirth or not. Put all that to aside. Does it matter whether you believe in karma vipaka? If you want to attain Nibbana? Still no. There is nothing you need to take with faith to attain Nibbana. This is why I love the Buddha's teaching. This is why I'm addicted to it, the Buddha's teaching. There's nothing I need to take by faith. Everything can be proven. So anyway, let's come back to the point I was trying to explain to you. Child comes into this world, a new baby is born, and we celebrate. For someone who doesn't believe in rebirth, you tell me, is that the day for celebration? Or is that the day to actually have the funeral? Isn't that the day you should start mourning? Because let's look at the day this person leaves this world for the last time, or rather the person passes away. If you don't believe in rebirth, all pain that this person had to suffer throughout their life is gone forever, right? No more physical pain, no more mental pain. No one's going to go and shout at the person. Well, even if they did, they won't care. Why? There's no person, is dead. You can't make that person cry. You can't make them angry. You can't make them hungry. You can chop parts of their body off and they won't even care. Right? A dead person? They won't care. So from that day forward, are they going to experience any pain? No. Isn't that the day for us to celebrate? But what about the day a baby comes into this world? From the moment they come into this world, they're going to have to start crying. And from the moment they come into this world, people will shout at them, scare them, cut bits of their body off, right? They're going to be hungry. Pain has just started. Suffering has just started in their life. But everyone throws a party. Gone mad or not? People have just thrown a party. Everyone's laughing. The baby's crying. People have gone mad. Why don't the parents know that from this day forward, this child will have to fight for their life? Every breath with uncertainty. It may be the last breath. And now this child has got to grow up. They're going to have to learn about the world that they live in. They're going to have to learn about the people who live in this world, about how cruel people are, right? They're going to have to start to go to school, have to start to do their homework. No, nobody likes doing their homework. They're going to have to start to make a living one day, and then fall in debt, go through all the pain of heartbreaks, right? Be cheated, right? Fall into traps. People are going to shout at them. They're going to be angry. All this pain has just started. Why do people celebrate then? That is the day to mourn. A child has just come into this world. This is why they say jati dukkha. That is the reality. But what does the world say? Jati sapa. Jati pacchaya jara marana shoka parideva dukkha domanasa upayasa. It's all started with jati. That's not the day to celebrate then, really. That's the day to start mourning. But the day the person dies, actually that's the day to celebrate. See, end of all suffering for that person. But what happens really? People cry on that day. Are they really crying for the dead person? No. Don't ever be fooled. If you go to a funeral and you see all people crying around the dead body, don't ever be fooled that they're crying on behalf of the dead person. Who are they crying on behalf of? Themselves. Because if you're fooled by that, then you're going to think, oh, when I die one day, my family is going to surround me and they're also going to start crying for me because they love me. Oh, no. They will cry, yes, sure enough. Not because they love you, because they love themselves. Did I tell you about our monk who was at the hospital? Yes? And there were a lot of patients who passed away while he was there. And one man who was just gasping for his last breath, his family came over, holding his man's hand, saying, oh, Tati, don't go. Who's going to feed us after you go? Who's going to look after us after you die? Tati, come back, come back. This is the true nature of people. True nature of people who have avidya and tanha, ignorance and attachment. But of course, Guru Swaminathan says, hold on to your life as much as you possibly can. Don't die. Right? Don't die. Hold on to your life as much as you possibly can. Why? Because you bring him dane? Huh? No. Because if you die, you have just said farewell to the Sambuddha Shasana. You have said farewell. You have bid farewell to your human life. The only chance you had to escape this endless rebirth cycle, this endless, meaningless process of reincarnation. That's why you have to hold on to it. Hold on to your dear life as much as you possibly can. Back when I was a young man, don't worry, you're also young, okay? You're all still young. But when I was a young man, I used to like adventure. I used to do rock climbing, abseiling. I used to like canoeing and like a bit of adventure, a bit of spice in my life. But not anymore. And that's not because I became a monk. It's because I don't want to risk my life. I used to go rock climbing for fun. And the fun there was really relief from vexation. Every time you put your foot on the rock, right? There's uncertainty. What might happen? There's always that risk, right? What might happen? You might break a neck. If you break a fall, that's going to be the last step you took. But when you put that step and you know, okay, that's a firm step, I'm not going to fall. Pleasure or not? Of course. That is the pleasure I was after. Adventure is nothing other than that. I used to love going on roller coasters. Even after we got married. Because we didn't have kids, so we were the kids. So we used to go on roller coaster rides. How does one enjoy a roller coaster ride? You do enjoy pleasure on a roller coaster, right? Where do you get the pleasure from? Yes. Well, as you go through, right, now you experience vexation. Why? It's going to take you many feet above the ground. Now you look down. And now you fear for your life. What might happen? And then they bring you back down again. What have you just paid for? Yes. You didn't go on that for free. You went through the roller coaster paying your hard-earned money to put you through torture and relieve you from torture. You might as well have gone up to someone and said, I've got myself a stick. Would you mind beating me with it? And then patting where you've beat me after you finish beating me. It wouldn't cost you anything to do that. Or do it yourself. Hit yourself with a stick and then pat yourself there. Pleasure. For free. You don't have to go on the roller coaster for that. You don't have to spend any money. Isn't that what going on a roller coaster is? All these rides. This is what adventure is. People say adventure is pleasure. Yes, of course. But first put yourself through torture. Now relieve yourself from torture. Now you've experienced pleasure. Watching a movie is much the same. How does a movie unfold? You sit in front of the TV, either at the cinema or at home, right? You're watching a movie. Movie starts. First they show you some characters and you start to attach yourself to them. One guy comes in really muscular, six-pack, and the women go, ooh, yeah. And the guys go, that's my hero. I want to be like him. Right? So now you start attaching yourself. A really pretty woman comes in. Lady comes into the picture. I like. So now you're attaching yourself. Right? So now you have people that you have attached yourself to. So you don't want any harm to come to them, do you? No, you want them to live happily ever after. Or you want them to live happily even from now on. So they have a child, beautiful life. But that's only the beginning of the story. What happens afterwards? Someone evil comes into the story. Right? The evil guy comes into the story. He takes the child away, kidnaps the child, or threatens the husband with a ransom. I'm going to take your wife, I've taken your wife, give me ransom and I'll return your wife. Now what happens? Now you're vexing. Why? Because you are attached to them. You don't like any harm to come to them because you're attached to them. So now you're vexing. Are those people vexing? The actors? No. The guy's been caged up. Okay, the husband's been caged up in the evil man. He's got a lair in which this man's been caged up. The director says, cut, end of shooting for today. Where do they go afterwards? To the pub for a drink. And they're earning their day's wage. But what about you and I? We are sat in front of the television, vexing. What about when Superman and Lex Luthor? What's going on when you're watching that? Vexing. What about those two guys? Best friends. And you thought Superman's worst enemy was Lex? No, they're best friends. Every other week they spend a sleepover at the other guy's house. That's how close friends they are. But you and I, we watch that movie. We are vexing inside. And then somehow or the other, the hero comes back into the picture, saves the child, saves the wife, saves the husband. Right? There's a fight. Whenever there's a fight scene, what happens inside? You burn inside, don't you? When the evil guy hits your hero, do you not feel the pain inside? But when the hero starts hitting the evil guy, you gotta give him one for me as well. Even you start hitting the screen, pretending to hit, because this anger is inside of you, and you're enjoying this process of the bad guy getting beaten up. Yes? Yeah. Vexation. And then somehow towards the end of that, after the climax of the movie, now the good guy, he wins the battle, he wins the fight. The wife has been retrieved, child has been retrieved, and they live a happy life ever after. So here's your mentality from the start to end of the movie. Start, attachment. Now you're vexing. Little while later, the evil guy starts to hit the good guy, your hero. Intense vexation. Intense, there's a fight scene. That fight scene, this is why you watch the movie in the first place, the fight scene. Right? Throughout the fight scene, you're vexing inside. Intense vexation. Somehow, the good guy wins relief from vexation. Now you say, that was a top-class movie. You worked an entire month to earn, how much is it nowadays to watch a movie? 500 rupees, 600 rupees? How much? 1,000 rupees? Okay. So you earned 1,000 rupees, you took that to the cinema. There was a guy at the ticket box. You said, hey mister, here's 1,000 rupees. Would you mind doing me a favor? He says, what can I do for you? You say, would you mind vexing me and then relieving me from my vexation? He says, sure. Here's a ticket. Would you mind putting me through suffering and then relieving me from my suffering? Sure, you got to buy a ticket for that. Oh, no problem. Then you go into the cinema hall. Now they vex you and relieve you from vexation. Seriously tell me, would you not have been better off keeping your money in your pocket, going to your garden, getting a good stick from a guava tree or something like that, right? And really spanking yourself with it. And then patting yourself where you've just been hit. Same thing, yes or no. But even better, because you haven't spent any money. You got it for free. The other, you spent money. When are you going to watch your next movie? When would you like to go to the cinema again? When's the next Superman movie coming out? Put a date in your diary. Make sure you go and watch it. Don't miss it. You can pay to be vexed and be relieved of vexation. People have gone mad. Do you see how people make a living out of you? If you don't understand the Buddha's Dhamma, do you see how people can make a living out of you? Roller coaster rides, nothing but making a living out of your happiness. You're selling your happiness to them. You're selling your peace of mind to them. Vex me and relieve me from vexation. You're paying people money to do that for you. Really, this is why I'm saying, understand this, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, this is just crazy. I really don't want to live in a world like this where there is seriously no pleasure to be had except for this fantasy world of pleasure. This is a fantasy, it's a dream. It's not real. Pleasure is not real. Pleasure is a fake. It's a fake. We've all been caught. We've all been tricked. Come out of this trickery. Save yourself. Seek refuge in the Buddha. Seek refuge in the Dhamma. Seek refuge in the Sangha. If not for the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, you would not have heard me say this. If I hadn't said this, you would not have realized what you do when you go to the cinema. What happens to you when you sit in front of the TV? What happens to you when the teledrama leaves you on a climax, waiting for you to come back and sit in front of the TV next day, 7 o'clock sharp, so you don't miss 1 minute of the next episode. Apply these things into your lives, and then it will start to make sense. So we chant the Arya Maitreya, and we'll bring the sermon to a close. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of birth, freed from the fire of decay, freed from the fire of illness, freed from the fire of death, freed from the fire of sorrow, freed from the fire of lamentation, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of suffering, freed from the fire of discontentment, freed from the fire of exhaustion, freed from the fire of disappointment, freed from the fire of clinging on to the 5 aggregates, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the suffering of samsara, freed from the disease of samsara, freed from the fear of samsara, freed from the fire of samsara, freed from the flames of samsara, freed from the burning of samsara, freed from the sorrow of samsara, freed from the lust of samsara, freed from the clutches of samsara, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. The calm worlds are in despair, May I and all beings be freed from the Kama worlds. The Rupa worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the Rupa worlds. The Arupa worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the Arupa worlds. All worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from all the worlds. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Letting go is the only salvation. May I and all beings let go. Detachment is the only salvation. May I and all beings be detached. Being freed is the only salvation. May I and all beings be freed. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the bondage of lust, freed from the bondage of aversion, freed from the bondage of delusion, freed from the bondage of Mara, healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana, 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 healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana. Right at the start of the sermon I asked you, what is the most precious thing to you? What do you have ranking number one in your list now? Number two? Why are you alive? Why do you want to be alive? I suppose is the better question to ask. Attain Nibbana. For as long as you're not saying it because it's the right thing to say, for as long as you're genuinely meaning that, for as long as that is become your number one priority in life because it has to be the number one priority in life, then that's the right answer. Countless times we've come through in samsara, never had this teaching, never had this doctrine. How do we know? If we had it, we wouldn't be here. If we don't make use of it now, we're going to lose it again. This is like finding a needle in a haystack. Seriously is. You've heard the idiom, right? Finding a needle in a haystack. Finding this needle in a haystack requires a Buddha. The needle's there, but finding it requires a Buddha, a Supreme Buddha. Now the Buddha's found it. All we have to do is weave our cloth, which is torn. Weave it, and then throw the needle away. Or pass it on to somebody else. You don't need the needle after you've done your job. The Dhamma is like the needle that is in the haystack. After you've sewn your cloth, now you no longer need it. After you've sewn the bit that is torn, now you no longer need it. Even the Dhamma is not something we have to attach ourselves to. Yes? This is why I say, don't let people brand you, particularly as people that walk on the path of Dhamma. Right? You have to be very careful. Because the mind is such that it always tries to find a way to become somebody in a crowd, in a gathering, in the family, in society. Always tries to become somebody, tries to become someone prominent, always tries to raise his ugly head. This is ego. Don't let yourself do that. This is like diabetes. You can cure it, but that will only happen once you become an arahant. Once you become an arahant, ego will have no problem in your life. But until then, you have to learn to live with it. So don't let it raise its ugly head. Always be aware, ego. I'm not going to do what you say. I'm going to do the exact opposite of what you say. I'm going to do the exact opposite of what you say. If you act like that, then you can get this done in this very life. So make that resolve, make that determination, and let's get this done. We can do this. We can all do this. You're here because you want to do it, right? There could have been many other things, plenty other things you could have done on a Sunday. And I know getting back now is going to be pretty late by the time you get back, isn't it? You have a long way to go. And tomorrow morning usually might even be a difficult start because of the fact that you come along to these Sunday evening sermons. Might not be easy, but you come along nevertheless because you want to do this. So let's do it then. We can do this. We can do this together. Don't give up. When it gets tough, the tough gets going. Right? When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. So if the going is becoming tough now, that's good. The last few steps are going to be pretty tough. In a hurdle race, the last hurdles are going to be the tallest ones. Once you get over them, that's it. You're done. So don't give up. Have courage, have guts, don't be a coward. Associate the right people. Associate people who will always encourage you to attain Nibbana. Walk this path. Try and cut down your associations with people that always encourage you to go and embrace the world. While you live in society, you might have to keep those connections, but limit those connections, limit to how much they can influence you. All you have to do is be aware, be mindful. What are they asking you to do? This is why I say become a Sotapanna as soon as you possibly can. Because once you become a Sotapanna, now they can't give you any more drushti about the world. Because whatever they throw your way, you know, no, can't be. You say that's pleasurable? No, can't be. Once you become a Sotapanna, that's it. You can no longer be bound to this world. You can't be tied, you can't be ensnared. You will get out of this. That's the guarantee the Buddha gives you. So let's all try and do that. Okay. So let's transfer the merits that we have all acquired today and conclude the sermon. First and foremost, let us remind ourselves once again that it is because of the Supremely Enlightened One, the Perfect One, the Omniscient One, the Undefeatable One, the Undefeated One, the Unvanquished One, the Supreme Gautama Buddha, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because he sacrificed himself over many eons in samsara, many births in samsara, for the liberation, salvation of every sentient being, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. Let us also remind ourselves of the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas throughout the world who sacrificed their lives all the way, passing down the gift of Dhamma down through the generations, all the way down to us, in the form of the Tripitaka which we have today at our disposal. It is because of their sacrifice, their commitment, their dedication that we have the Dhamma that we can study, we can analyze, we can comprehend, and that helps us to attain Nibbana. So, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today, all those Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas who dedicated and sacrificed their lives to protecting and preserving the Dhamma, be able to rejoice in those merits. If any of them have today been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes, be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of the Mahasangha throughout the world, wherever they may be, as Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas, in whatever capacity they may be acting. It is they who have been protecting and preserving the Sambuddha Shasana all this time. It is because of them today I have been able to ordain myself. It is thanks to them that today you are able to listen to this sermon, observe the precepts and so on and so forth. So may all those members of the Mahasangha be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, particularly passing on merits to the members of the Mahasangha who are resident in your local temples, in your local nunneries. It is they who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine, through your hard times and the difficult times in your life. They have always been by your side to bless you, to help you, to guide you. So may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, and the dead that we invited at the start of this sermon, as well as all our ancestors, those who have predeceased us, who have come along with us in this infinitely long journey in samsara, our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, grandparents, and so on and so forth, husbands, wives, children, and so on and so forth, not just in this birth, but also in our previous births. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, being grateful for all that they have done for us throughout all those encounters that we have had in samsara. If any of them have been today born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes and be able to be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the Mahasangha, as well as the Anagarikas who are resident at this monastery. It is they who have made a lot of effort today to organize this event for you, make this venue available to you, and make this venue, prepare this venue for you for your listening comfort by arranging the chairs and also by decorating this stadium, or rather this stage as an offering to the Dhamma. It is because of them that today you and I have been able to preach this sermon as well as listen to this sermon, so may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. As well as that, take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of your family, your mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters. Perhaps some of them have today relieved you of your duties and responsibilities, as a result of which you are able to be here today to listen to this sermon. As well as take a moment to transfer merits to people who you work with, your employers, your employees. It is because of them that today perhaps you have been able to be here today, because they have relieved you of your duties and responsibilities, because they have taken on those duties and responsibilities on your behalf, that today you are able to be here today. So may they all also rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Also taking a moment to transfer merits to all those who might have helped you be here today in terms of providing you with transport, or perhaps by inviting you to be here today, or perhaps by offering you a glass of water or maybe a meal to quench your thirst, to sate your hunger. It is thanks to them that today you are able to listen to this sermon in peace and harmony without any of the physical discomforts which might have come to you otherwise. Also taking a moment to transfer merits to the Nayakatero of the Sri Alamatiniarame, at which premises you have today parked your vehicles there. It is thanks to him and the monks who are resident at that temple that you are able to come along to this in peace and in comfort, and join these sermons and attain the bliss of Nibbana. So may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Anyone and everyone who might have helped you in any way, shape or form to be here today to listen to this sermon to attain Nibbana, may they all be able to rejoice in these merits. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces as well as the police force who fought a 30-year-old long war in Sri Lanka. It is thanks to them that today we are able to live in peace and harmony despite our differences, despite our differences in beliefs. And also the men and women who might have lost their lives having caught up in the war, either friend or foe, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them are seeking merits, may they be able to rejoice in these merits, as well as those men and women who might have lost their lives in natural calamities such as the tsunamis and other world disasters, not just in Sri Lanka but also in other parts of the world. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Whether they be acquaintances, friends, family, or those who you may not know, reminding ourselves that there is no one in this world, there is no being that we have not come across in samsara. No one's ever not been a mother to us, no one's ever not been a father to us. So All those men and women, no matter who they are, have always one day been a mother to us, one day been a father to us. So may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes and be born in the blissful planes. Also take a moment to pass on these merits to those men and women who have dedicated their lives to leading this country, developing this country, and protecting this country. It is thanks to them that today you and I have the freedom of time and the leisure to come along and listen to these sermons. If not for them, you and I will have to be leading this country. You and I will have to be developing this country. You and I will have to today be protecting this country. It is thanks to them that today we don't have to do that, and we have the freedom of time and the leisure to listen to these sermons and practice the Noble Eightfold Path. So may they all rejoice in the merits that we have acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today in preaching this Dhamma sermon, in listening to this sermon, as well as all the offerings that you have made to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, as well as any alms that you might have offered to the men and women who might have come along today to listen to these sermons, as well as any offerings that you have made to the Dhamma in terms of making these sermons available to a global audience, either in audio form or perhaps in recording these sermons and making them available to such people later on, or perhaps in transcribing these sermons, or perhaps just by spreading the word and inviting other people all over the world to come along and listen to these sermons. In whatever shape, way or form that you might have contributed to the success of this sermon today, may through the power of all those merits, may these merits energize and empower many hundreds of thousands of people all around the world, people just like yourselves who are aspiring to become Arahants and Arahatans in this very birth itself. May through the power of all these merits we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahatun Mahanses in this blessed land, in our very lives itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may you and I also be able to become one of those Arahatun Mahanses, one of those Arahat Mehanin Mahanses in this very birth itself, in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The members, may I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the Noble Triple Gem be with you always. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.